Welcome in. Summer may be winding down, but your garden doesn't have to. Imagine harvesting crisp lettuce, sweet carrots, and hearty kale while everyone else is closing up shop for the season. Today, I'm going to show you how to plan the perfect fall garden from crop choices to frost proofing tricks so you can keep those fresh harvests coming right through the cool weather. We're going to talk about crops for the North and the South, and as well as those of you in the Southern Hemisphere going into spring. We're going to try and help you the best we can. Team Replay, what's the biggest challenge you've had with fall gardening? And what are you growing for fall or for those of you going into spring? So, why would we want to plant a fall garden? When you plant in the fall, it gives you a second harvest window after your summer's crops are fading. That equals more food, more variety, and less money spent at the store. Those cool nights and warm days actually change the plant chemistry. Many root crops, like the carrots, the beets, the parsnips, convert starches into sugars as temps drop, tasting sweeter. Some brassicas, like the kale and the cabbage, also mellow out and taste better after a light frost. Fewer pests are around in the fall, but there are still going to be things out there that want to eat your crops. Many heat loving pests decline as those temps are dropping. There's actually a lower water demand and calmer conditions, cooler temps, slow evaporation, and plant transpiration. So, getting those fall crops established often need less frequent watering than summer plantings, depending on where you are, how hot it is still. A lot of times when we're starting our fall crops, we need to keep them well watered if they're carrots, and in the shade if we're doing transplants of brassicas. So let's start into how to find your average first frost date. This is where I need some math equation to happen. I'm going to show you the link that's in the description talking about your first and last frost date by zip code. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to pick a zip code that is in Minnesota. So it's the almanac.com, and in your description, it's going to talk about finding your frost date. So there is a box right here, and I'm going to pick a zip code 6601. Try that one and see what it tells me. So this is loading Bemidji, Minnesota. And the first fall frost is expected September 20th right here. So then I'm going to take that, and instead of doing it the hard way, I'm going to say how many days until September, what was the number? 20. There's 39 days until that frost date. Now that isn't a guarantee that they're going to get frost that day, but it's a pretty good estimate. So you would take that number, 39 days, and you would look at the days to maturity of crops to figure out if you could plant something right now, because we're going based off of when this is live, which is August 12th. Now, this example is super short. This climate, the people growing in that zip code that I typed in, would need season extenders, because 39 days is not a lot of days to have things. They would have already had to have their fall garden planted, right? Now, I do have examples. We're going to keep talking deeply about this, but I just want to throw out there that I looked up a Minnesota gardener, and she said her zone was 4. And I do have a link in the description for her video, The Homesteading Road. And she has things like cabbage, parsnip, rutabaga, turnips, greens, bush beans, broccoli, radish, and kohlrabi. That's what she considers her fall crop list. So we are going to learn about what are things that are tender to frost, semi-hardy, and hardy to frost. So we're working backwards to get the latest sow date, which crops to choose. You can do quick wins like your leafy greens, lettuce, spinach, mustard, greens, arugula, Swiss chard, baby greens. The most common things that you're going to hear are kind of what we're listing. We're going to go more in depth about days to maturity on a chart that I have for you, and we're going to pull up a planting map for all the zones and see if we can get somebody a schedule that works for them. So I'm just going to rattle off a couple of things. Brassicas, kale, cabbage, broccoli, collards, Brussels sprouts, root crops, carrots, beets, turnips, radish. So let's get into that more. In the description, there's going to be a crop days to maturity chart, and it's going to look like this. So it is showing basil only takes 30 to 60 days, but it will be killed by frost. Now beets, days to maturity 50 to 60. So if when you looked up your frost date and you got it and you said, okay, how many days until that frost date? If you had 60 days, you could be planting beets because they also survive high 20s. So you could get a frost and they would still be okay in the ground. Now a bush bean is quick growing, days to maturity 45, but it will be killed by a frost. Where a cabbage, if you get a quick maturing variety, days to maturity are what we need to look at when doing the fall garden. It can still be in the ground when a frost comes because it can go down to 20. So this goes through many different crops that are possible for your fall garden. Days to maturity, what is the cold hardiness? We are going to go into the different types of cold hardiness. And then here, I also linked in the description this vegetable planting schedule. It is a map and it has different colors and it's talking about these different zones. You can click your zone, like I can click zone 5. And it's going to say you're probably going to get a frost by October 15th. That's how I can figure out what to plant. So if I go into August, it's saying here I can plant beets, get some broccoli in the ground. Brussels sprouts, no, they should have already been in the ground. Cabbage, you can do another planting. Carrots, another planting. Kale, lettuce, peas. Again, looking at that days to maturity. So you can also use this chart by state. So if I click Minnesota and go down to, they have different zones, planting schedules. So Minnesota has zone 3, which is very short season. It has zone 4. It has zone 5. I believe that's it. Yeah. So this is a fun chart to play with in the description. I'm going to next talk about season extensions, and then we're going to go into challenges and the like cold hardy stuff. But first I need to say hi because we have people here. And I wanted to get some good information in for those in the replay. So don't forget to check out the poll in the live chat. For those of you in the replay, you can answer it as well when I put it up there. So we do have Bowtie Life in the Garden. We have Storms, Radios, and Cats. We have Miss Sharon. Hello. Thanks for being an awesome mod and a channel member. We have Robin Gardens. Hello from Chicagoland. Jay Dixon. Serena Norell. Hello. That's exciting. Just ordered my cover crop seeds today. That is another thing that happens in the fall, but I'm not focusing on that really tonight. Tibor, welcome in. Diva in the dirt. There needs to be another category on the poll. You forget to keep looking after it. You just forgot that you planted a fall crop and it's on its own, right? Looking through. We have lots of people talking. Serena says, my average last frost date is November 1st. Should I plant cover crops in the bed I plan to grow garlic in before I plant the garlic? No. No. You should plant the garlic on Halloween and don't put a cover crop where you're planting garlic. I would not do that. Dave Knight says, clearing out the garden for fall crops. I have 90 days left in zone 6A. That is great to know. You now know that you could have anything that are days to maturity in that window that take up to 90 days and have things in the ground that are hardy or have a plan to cover things to extend your season. We are going to sort of talk about, how did I word it? Recovering the gardens for a fall crop. So for me, I had a garden designated for this fall planting. The way I prepared it was solarization. Check out the video in the replay if you haven't seen the method that we used for that, where my warm crops are still growing, my summer crops are in their own space. I didn't have to take any of them out to prepare my fall garden. Now, some people have to either stagger plant them with their warm crop, and once the warm crop gets killed by frost, then the hardy stuff is growing for fall, or maybe just make the decision to take things out. And we can talk more about that as we grow here. Robin Garden says, I have over the earth zipper greenhouses that work out great, plus frost tunnels. I imagine that your greenhouses, I'm sure you have to kind of stabilize them, stake them down to the ground or weight them down somehow. I've just seen those things blow away. If I picture what I think that is. And then frost tunnels are super cool. We're going to look at some pictures of season extensions, and I love to hear what you guys use. Miss Sharon does have a storm coming. Okay. Oh, Tibor had storms already. Oh my goodness. Bowtie is doing more potatoes for a fall garden. Robin is doing an experiment as well to plant some potatoes for fall. Okay, this one is show me Florida Zone 9B for peas and potatoes. Okay, so our planting schedule calendar, and we have Florida 9B. Okay, share screen. Peas and potatoes. So here is zone 9 in Florida. And peas is October. And this chart doesn't include potatoes at all ever. Like, it's not even in the list for any time of the year. So that's a little weird. Peas in October, it says, for zone 9 for Florida. Okay, so Brooke Trout says, I think you're in Florida, right? Zone 10A. This chart doesn't actually go to 10, but I do have a link in the description to Jacques in the garden, and he is in 10B in California, which is it the same as 10A Florida? Of course not, but this might be able to give you an idea. So I'm going to briefly talk about what he talks about in his video, but it is linked below. Definitely things like broccoli, broccolini. He had 4 different kinds of broccoli. Okay. He even talked about starting Brussels sprouts for his fall garden in 10B. Rocky arugula, top bunch collards, Muscovich tomatoes, New Girl tomatoes, herbs like cilantro, basil, tetradill, and fennel, Utah celery, artichokes, tromboncino, squash to grow as a summer squash. Like eating it before it gets to full hard maturity. He was going to have a second planting of cucumbers and corn and snap and shelling peas. He even talked about planting jade bush beans as a fall garden crop for him. Beets like golden and robin, carrots like Danvers, scarlet nantes, and tender sweet, things that have a short days to maturity is what we're looking for. Cauliflowers, red acre cabbage, tender sweet cabbage, mamba kale, perpetual spinach is a green chard that he spoke really highly about. Baby lettuce, greens like butter crunch and ice queen, and marvel of four seasons. Growing those lettuces for baby greens versus like a cut and come again style, because when you're growing in the fall, you do have less sun hours, which equals slower growth. So you can't harvest a whole lot at one time. And usually that means you need to grow more of things to get a larger harvest than you're used to for summer. And then he had an entire 30 minutes of flowers that he talked about for planting in zone 10B. So again, his video is very in depth about a zone like yours. Hugo Homestead, hey, welcome to the conversation about fall gardening. I'm going to try and talk about as much as I can. MKP, I'm here and I'm square. Hello. Bochai says, huh, peas seem late on that for the seed chart. Again, definitely go with what you know. These charts are just kind of ideas. It is so great to talk to a local gardener, right? Because there's North Florida, Central Florida, and South Florida. And all that did was say Florida. I would document what's worked in the past. If you didn't get your harvest, back up your planting schedule. Get on Facebook groups or a gardening club and say, when do you guys plant your peas? What variety of pea do you plant for the fall? I'm here to just get you thinking about it, okay? I do not have hard and fast answers, Bowtie. Not that I'm picking on you. Bowtie says, well, Shawnee girls, we don't all live at the North Pole like you and worry about the northern storms sent by the elves. On tour with Radio Jonesy, why do I drop everything to help my challenger with watch hours? We appreciate you so much, Jonesy. I am going to talk about gardening in Tasmania, planning for your spring garden coming up soon on the show. So catch it on the replay if you are working and can't listen. Bowtie says that gap for peppers is my best growing time. Dave says I hedge my bets by planting outside cool plants and a greenhouse for the tender stuff because you run out of light mid-November. Bowtie says, see, I think we really are zone 8. The USDA comes up with what zone you are based on average things over the last, 30 years. I know mine changed from 4B to 5A, and it's like I still go by zone 4 for perennials, right? Radio Jonesy says, I love Shawnee Girls' passion and enthusiasm, and the way Shawnee is just too nice to compete with. We are going to talk about the goals towards the end of the show and what our current totals are, of course. Brooke Trout won, sorry. I'll have to check that out. Thanks. I've said it before. Gardening is way different in Florida than Wisconsin. Yes. Jay says, talk about roots. Oh, Robin says, my favorite fast pea is Tom Thumb. They are very short. Yeah. I feel like it doesn't make a whole lot of peas, obviously, because it doesn't have a whole lot of infrastructure. I'm doing Tom Thumb and Iona for my fall pea planting, shelling peas. Okay, I think I'm at the end. So, getting back into the information part, season extension. So, what we've done so far, and we're going to recap the directions as we go here. We've figured out there's a fly. There's what is your frost date? When are things going to start to not grow? How many days from today until then do you have? Days to maturity on a seed packet. Your seeds will tell you 62 days, right? Can you plant that or not? If you need help narrowing down where to even look for crops, we can talk about the different categories. Some things you can grow with season extension and you don't have to spend a lot of money, or you can spend a lot of money. So let's get into that. Floating row covers, lightweight fabric. It can be I've seen people use the insect netting, the tulle from fancy girl dress stuff, uh, the sheets, cotton sheets, and actual rated frost cloth. Keeps temps a few degrees warmer with a hoop that can be a hula hoop. It can be rebar with PVC. It can be wire, whatever you're using to keep the sheet, the cover off of the plants. Okay. I've seen people put Christmas lights underneath all of that. So now the lights, the Christmas lights are emitting a little bit of heat, and that cover is keeping things in for the overnight frost temps. And then you would take it off during the day. Otherwise, you're creating a greenhouse effect depending on your temperatures, right? Great for greens. We see a lot of lettuce grown this way and brassicas grown this way. We see brassicas grown under cover just to keep that cabbage moth out, right? So there's also combining low tunnels and hoops in plastic, and that can even add several weeks or months into your growing shoulder season for protection. Cold frames. A cold frame can be a container that you put a glass over from a window pane. It can be a container that you put a plastic tote lid on. You can take a plastic tote and put it over crops. You can use milk jugs, okay? Cloaks. There's a whole list I can read from. I'm just going to do what's on the screen for now and then go to my, there's links in the description about what we're talking about. I've seen where people take straw bales and make a frame, like a border, a hedge, and the crops are inside of there, and then they have something to cover it with that they can open and close. That is like a glass window. There's something called wall of water. I do have a picture of that. And then water-filled containers, barrels, bottles create warm by residual heat. They warm up during the day with the sun, and then at night they have that warmth still. So depending on the size space you're trying to heat, there's a way to figure out what size container you need. Like I've seen people want to protect a tree maybe, and they'll have, maybe it's a small enough tree they can have a sheet over it, and they can have water barrels around the whole thing. So it's got its own little warm home, right? We also have the option for mulch and insulating layers. Heavy mulch helps roots survive, brief freezes, and stabilizes soil temps. So going into some of these examples. So I'm sure there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers here in the live chat or in the replay, and I would like you to speak about what you've built. This is something that opens and closes. It looks like it was purchased. I also have video links to what's called a hotbed. This is a greenhouse where in these rows you could even put extra protection. I think I have a picture. See how so there's double layers. There's the actual greenhouse or hoop house, and then they have low beds right here with hoops and covering. So there's 2 layers to protect from cold temperatures. See these tubes in the back? That is an example of a water wall in this style greenhouse. You can see the sunlight coming in, and the back wall is where all the water is, and at night it'll have heat for whatever they've got going on in here. This is more of your home garden. It reminds me of a do-it-yourself. They have raised beds that have hoops on them. There is a support bar at the top, and they are able to put something over this. It could be shade cloth even. So we talked about milk jug cloaks, cloches. I don't remember how to say that. Opening it up during the day if it's hot, because otherwise the plants will overheat. Talked about wall of water, which can be any kind of container filled with water to release the heat at night. This can be done in those zip-up greenhouses, right? Row covers, lightweight breathable fabric for frost, wind, pests, allowing sunlight, air, and water to reach your plants. Secure them properly. Choose the right weight. Different ones have different ratings for frost coverage, ventilate on warm days. Talked about cold frames and as well as hotbeds. There's two videos, one's from Hugh Richards, one's from Charles Downing, in the description to explain how to build a hotbed, if that interests you. Mulch offers insulation, weed suppression, moisture retention, soil fertility. Straw is popular because it's lightweight. Shredded leaves are an option in fall. Wood chips are long lasting if they're just being layered. Compost, 2 to 4 inches thick for the mulch conversation. Low tunnels, hoop frames, high tunnels, larger hoop houses, greenhouses, those are all things that are considered season extenders. If you're enjoying this stream, give it a like. It helps more gardeners like you find us. I also have live streams on vermiculture, the hunger gap, and what should you grow your first year. Check those out. Links are in the description. We are going to talk about common fall challenges like frost damage, protecting the tender crops with those season extenders, or just growing only frost hardy things and harvesting out your tender things before that weather forecast comes in. Many things can tolerate a light frost. Now, frost is 32 Fahrenheit, was it 0 Celsius? The things that are also challenging in fall is slower growth because shorter sunlight hours. So when we're looking at seeds and days to maturity, we want quick, or we want to start early and just accept that growth is going to look different. Usually just plant more, like we talked about before, because the growth is slow. So things that are cut and come again aren't going to reproduce themselves. You're going to have to harvest them one and done. Sometimes in certain climates, you have cold soil, which is slow germination. Now, a lot of us, it's summer, but we're trying to plant a fall garden, which gets tricky because we don't want things to get overheated and bolt or not germinate, or germinate and die because we didn't water it. There's all this kind of timing that goes into place. And I think that is one of the things that people said in the poll. How do we time this out right? Right? So the action plan, to recap what we've talked about so far, to do right now: find your average first frost date using your zip code with the link that I have in the description. Look up how many days till that date, and it gives you a number. Let's say it's 60. Then you can figure out, okay, what crops have 60 or less days to maturity based on that plan chart that I have. And you can even look into any other kind of charts you can find, or local gardeners, checking the days to maturity on seed packets to calculate all of the things. Sometimes we can start things indoors or just start them outside in the shade. Understand your crop list and then plan ahead. Do you want to have season extension options? Do you have a tote laying around that's clear that you can put over some crops and weigh it down so it doesn't blow away at night and take it off during the day? Do you want to get into hoops and row covers? Do you want to build a cold frame? Do you want to build a hotbed? How much into your off season do you want to still have food in nature's refrigerator, the soil, right? Plant those quick crops first and get yourself some wins: the radishes, the baby lettuce, the spinach. And if you have enough days, plant them in successions, just like you would in the spring and summer, every 2 weeks. So now there is cold tolerance categories in crops. So tender crops are sensitive to frost. They will be damaged or killed when temperatures dip to freezing or below. And we were looking at that chart, like basil, green beans. You could plant them and get a harvest if you have enough days. But once that frost comes, they're done. They're now green manure, right? Now, some lettuce varieties have this happen to them, but not all. Some of them are semi-hardy, depending on like the variety that you planted. There is a whole notes page that I took that I've been researching on what lettuce to plant in the spring, what lettuce to plant in the summer that's heat tolerant, and what lettuce to plant in the fall that I want to experiment with next season. So that'll be in a seed haul this winter. Um, Keeping it covered helps extend this harvest. The basil we talked about, the summer squash, some people can plant them for a second crop, but just know if a early frost comes or when that frost comes, they're now manure, green manure, right? Again, the beans and cucumbers. Some people are planting a second round of cucumbers like we talked about with zone 10B. I'm sure Florida could be doing this. I think I have a note on Florida planting. We're just gonna briefly touch on that too. So then there's the category semi-hardy crops. Definition: tolerates light frosts down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit or -2 Celsius without major damage to the plant. So some examples of a semi-hardy cold tolerance is beets, carrots, cauliflower, celery, Swiss chard, Chinese cabbage, Napa cabbage, romaine lettuce. Again, looking if it's a cold tolerant type, turnips. Now, if it's hardy, it can survive hard frosts and freezing temps down to 20 Fahrenheit or lower, especially when they are fully mature. If we get these plants up to maturity before it gets that cold, they will have the strength to get through that night. 'Cause that's the cat, not me. Um, Sometimes we'll get like a dip in temperatures and then it'll shoot back up for a couple weeks before it stays, right? So examples of hardy crops, kale. It might come down to what variety of kale. So again, look at if it's hardy and days to maturity. Collard greens, spinach, the Brussels sprouts, I would have had to plant those like in the spring. I can't grow those here. Parsnips, cabbage, a storage type. That's another thing that we talked about in the hunger gap is in the fall, in the category of the seed that you're planting, a quick variety and a storage type. Carrots for storage, I'm reading Brussels, cabbage for storage, beets for storage, because it sometimes specifies that they are tougher and longer lasting in a preservation method of whatever's recommended, which we covered there. So, recapping: tender crops, harvest before frost, plant first. Semi-hardy crops can be planted later. I would plant them now. Still harvest after light frost. Now I'm talking about for me. Hardy crops I would plant now and overwinter with protection and enjoy into the winter with nature's refrigerator. Before I talk about Australia, Tasmania, and the notes I took for other gardeners, I am going to jump back into the live chat because I have been talking and hopefully there's something in here. Oops, I rubbed the mic. I'm sorry. Trying to get to where I left off, but I see some good stuff in here that I can read. And hopefully everyone is helping each other out and being very kind. Telling us what varieties work for you is such a golden nugget. Like when Robin was talking about Tom Thumb peas. Jay says, I planted 2 fall peas plus 3 beans today. I like that. Bowtie says, I like mammoth melting sugar snow pea. They grow 6 to 8 feet tall and pump out the pods. For my fall garden, I can't plant peas that need that much infrastructure because they wouldn't have enough time to mature. They'd be too busy growing infrastructure. Radio Jonesy says, but we live next door to the South Pole, Bowtie. We get the good things like killer whales, then fairy penguins. It's just so different. Serena says, we're still in the 90s in central Oklahoma. I wonder when it'll drop below 80 so I can plant spinach and other dark leafy vegetables. The tricks for that are keep it fully shaded or start indoors if you have the ability to do that. Because, yeah, it's when we're still in summer and we're trying to grow things that like the cold, we still need warm soil to get things to germinate, but we don't want it to get stressed out and bolt. Bowtie says it could be a pool noodle holding the sheets off the plants. MKP says, this will be my first fall planting. It will be a learning experience for sure. Absolutely. And there is a huge risk. You either get something or it all gets taken out, or you get a lot of something. You just kind of learn as you grow, right? I think spinach is also something you can succession. So if the first planting doesn't make it and you've got the second planting 2 weeks later, you're still going, right? Radio Jonesy says we are having a beautiful winter's day in the sun and it's 14 Celsius. Absolutely awesome. Kevin says, hi, welcome. Planning my fall garden, at what temperature would you start to sow spinach seeds so not to bolt? So look at, if you need help, there's a link in the description that is to look at your first frost date. It's a Farmer's Almanac link. You type in your zip code. What it's going to give you is a date that you should expect temperatures to get to 32 Fahrenheit. You can take that date and figure out from today to that date, how much time do you have? It might say you have 80 days. Look at the spinach that you want to plant. What is the days to maturity? If you only need 45 days, then wait to plant the spinach till you're 50 days out from your frost date, because you'll have cooler temps. You can also do the tricks we've mentioned about keeping it fully shaded and planting it every 2 weeks to see which one sticks. Take notes. The spinach that I planted in September, I harvested, and the spinach that I planted in August bolted. Mother Earth Garden Club, welcome. Bowtie admits that if he has to go open something during the day, that the plants are just going to have to die. Robin Garden says there's a channel here in Zone 5B that is not creating new content. However, he has a great setup for the polytunnel with a hoop protection inside for the second level of protection and water containers inside. That is all the levels of things. And I bet you, is there mulch too? Cloche. We're trying to figure out how to say this word. Cloches. And the channel Robin speaks of is 1 Yard Revolution. Thank you for the recommendation. I wondered what all the Etsy was. Good to see you. Okay. Radio Jonesy says, I like cutting Coke bottles in half. And, well, you must have Coke bottles laying around then, Jonesy. And split the sides and put it in some sand or potting mix. And then you put the seeds in place. The top of the bottle back down with no cap, and you have a micro greenhouse. My son's seed started in a bottle method, and he transplanted the plants outside. And it is plastic, in case anyone was thinking that he was doing that with glass. Tammy Harder, welcome to the fall planting conversations. Bowtie says, my dino kale is about to start its 3rd year of life. Mother Earth Garden Club, romaine lettuce, if goes to seed, will overwinter and will come up in the spring. I have had that happen, and it's a wonderful, magical thing. I don't remember if it was romaine lettuce, but it was fantastic to have all this lettuce just grow in the spring without me doing a thing, you know? Timing of planting is tricky for so many things. Like Bowtie's talking about Brussels sprouts for him would be December. Mother Earth is talking about planting garlic in fall is tricky. I plant it around Halloween. Rutabaga is hardy, says Tammy Harder. That was definitely something on the Minnesota Zone 4 gardener, the Homesteading Road, the video. It's a short, I think, is linked in the description. That was on her list of what she would grow. Rutabaga. Miss Sharon says, our weather is throwing out temps like lottery numbers. Planting will be a gamble. It's fun talking about how you use the fall harvest. Absolutely. Robin says, oh my God, the pixie variety of cabbage I did this year, the friend sent the seed, is amazing. 2 plants. Plant number 1 was 6 pounds. Plant number 2 has 5 heads on it. That is crazy. And it is in her latest video on her channel. A 300-day growing season for bowtie. Mother Earth Garden Club says, I have planted watermelon radish that are now about 2 inches tall. South Florida Sunshine Tropicals, welcome to our conversation. We are trying to help all people in planning what they should be planting during this time. Let us plan this fall garden before frost peas on our parade. Robin Garden says, the best book I have on winter gardening is a guy in Maine, Elliot Coleman. Oh, I know that name. The Winter Harvest Handbook, Year-Round Vegetable Production Using Deep Organic Techniques in Unheated Greenhouses. I wonder if that's in my shopping list, because that sounds really familiar. I'll have to look it up after the show. Carol, I'm supposed to be in bed too because 2 of my kids are having doctor's appointments in the morning, and their appointments are scheduled for when I normally am sleeping, and so it's going to be fun. Not supposed to be up late. Okay, so things I took note on, and it's in the description. We've talked about Jacques in the garden, zone 10B, what he's planting for the fall time. His list is huge. That video is linked. Hugh Richards. I don't know what zone he's in. He's over in, what is it, Wales? Spring cabbage, pak choy, lettuce mix, chard, dill, mustard greens, spinach, winter radish, turnips, and spring onions are things that he would grow for fall. Then we looked over and I talked about the homesteading road for Minnesota, cabbage, parsnip. I'm just going to take this off the clipboard because stop it. Cabbage, parsnip, rutabaga, turnips, greens, bush beans, broccoli, radish, and kohlrabi. Then there is a Florida gardener that had a tour that I looked at. This isn't linked in the description because I didn't know which one I watched. It was Growing Back to Eden is the channel, and he's moved to different parts of Florida, so I don't even know where he's at this time. But in his nursery, he had mulberry cuttings, and there was loquats that he started from seed, hibiscus, chaya, moringa, elderberry. He was starting seeds of tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, basil, Salanova lettuce, pak choy, direct sowing carrots, beets, arugula. Like your guys' season is just getting started, right? And then there is a channel calling Homesteading Down Under, which says they're in Tasmania and they are going into spring. And so in September, I think, was this planting schedule for Tasmania. He talked about lettuce, arugula, broccoli, carrots, beets, radish, cabbage, broad beans, peas, silver beet, and spring onions. So we need to maybe talk about recovering the garden for a fall crop. Not all of us have a spot where they can just put their fall crops in. Usually they have summer stuff in there too. So harvest from what you can. What looks like it needs to go. So sometimes we top off our tomatoes. So anything flowering after, what is it, September, we cut that top of part of the plant off because there isn't enough time for me specifically for that flower to produce a mature fruit. So I don't want the plant sending any energy into that. I want it to ripen what's on the plant. If anything looks like it's getting diseased, take it out. If anything is bolting, going to seed, do you want the seed? Then let it get the mature seed. Otherwise, maybe you should be taking that out. I'm looking at a list here. Prune, older, lower leaves of things, clean things up a little, see where you can make room for fall planting. Maybe you need to do a big herb harvest to dry or preserve in some way. Saving seeds as you need to, clearing the soil, pulling weeds. Um, Turning the soil can be as basic as like trowel or raking, hori to move things where you need them, and adding compost. So I'm going to go back to my list over here. What I did to prepare my garden space was solarize with, it was a DeWitt ground cover. It's like a black tarp. They recommend, there's a link in the description to Recovering the Garden for a Fall Crop. It's by Jesse Frost from No Till Growers. This list came from him. Soaking the area first before you cover it with the black plastic. You can also just mow down the things you're done with, so they're chopped up into little bits before planting your fall garden. You can amend the bed by adding a layer of compost after weeding it. And of course, remember the power of mulch. It could be a paper, like, you know what butcher paper looks like? It's a brown roll. There's paper for gardeners that does that, that you can then plant in, and then it, once it gets wet, it kind of shrinks. So you want to pre-moisten it and make sure it's weighted down somehow and then plant into it, which is good for transplants or direct sowing if it's not like carrots. Dried grass, straw. Sometimes this is a complete chance of refreshing everything. Maybe you need to do a shallow till because you're starting from nothing, or you're getting gifted somebody's garden that they couldn't take care of for I don't know how long, and it needs a complete reclaim. So maybe you need to change the shape of the bed, the size of the bed. Maybe you want to put in something higher or lower or borders. This is your chance to get that work done to do your fall crop. I believe I talked about everything on there. Let's see what's on my tabs. Looks like we talked about that. Going back into the chat. Oh, hi. I'm trying to, here it is. Food Forest Permaculture. Welcome to the fall garden planning episode. We're trying to get as much information out there. Berries ready for autumn and cooler temps. I'm not in a rush or anything. I definitely would like some cooler temps because we have another heat wave coming. People have been helping each other out with great suggestions for different videos to watch, books to pick up, seed varieties. Carol says he has similar stuff to me, but the annuals sound like Central. Yeah, I don't remember where Growing Back to Eden is located, because he's actually had like operational security issues, and I think he's less vocal about where he is in Florida because he's had people stalking him, is the sentence I'm going to use. Bowtie is putting out lovely sentences that are kind of punny. Radio Jonesy says, yes, Homestead Down Under is John Steed. Yes, he told me to fence my yard like a prison to keep out the wallabies. If you've seen his videos, he has a high fence. So I watched 2 of his videos, and he has a lot of beds, raised beds, and I didn't look to see what the fence was. I was too focused on what he was planting. I'm glad you know about that Tasmania gardener, because when I looked up Tasmania gardening, I feel like there's a gap of information. There isn't a lot of people putting out garden content, or maybe I did the search wrong. Bowtie says, my fall garden plan is mostly wishful thinking and a bag of clearance seed. Absolutely. Kevin says, topping tomatoes, is this first determinate or indeterminate? Anything. Anything I have growing in the tomato world in my zone in Minnesota, 4B, 5A, I have a frost that comes in October. So in September, if any of those tomatoes plants are trying to put on new growth at the top with flowers, I cut it off because there is not enough time, no matter if it's determinate or interdeterminate, for it to produce a mature tomato to maturity. I want it to focus on the things that it has on its plant self already under that. I have a August garden tour coming up, Kevin. It's being filmed right now, and I garden away from home. I don't live at my garden, which is a little trickier, where you can see what's happening in the garden. Robin says Hugh Richards is in Wales and can grow year round. It's like, oh, it's really 8B. So the coldest it gets is 15. Oh no, I'm getting a notification for something that I need to deal with, I think. Maybe it can wait. It's, I don't have my phone next to me. It has to do with my phone. But I just got a thing on my, anyways, um, mild but chilly winter season. Yeah, he uses the hotbeds and he has a greenhouse. Carol was doing what? Beat tonight was painting again. Oh, painting again. Bowtie says I tried to grow kale last fall. The caterpillar sent me a thank you card. That is a fall pest. Slugs, aphids, caterpillars, cover it or plant confusing scents around it, right? We've talked about companion planting before. A lot of the times with that, though, it's just you need to keep it covered. Bowtie says, last year I misread the seed packet. Turns out I was growing disappointment. Yeah, going up and down a ladder is hard when you're not used to it. Radio Jonesy says, Jay Dixon, I found a very small gap in the fence here where they slipped through to my vegetable garden and destroyed it and ate all the grass and all the flowers and all the things. Bota says, yeah, I'm not a great planner. My fall garden is more of a composting experiment. Broadcasting things in a bed and just seeing what works is perfectly acceptable, right? Um, First frost. Oh, how did he describe it? How did he describe it? It was, they were talking about how we don't have frost. So we talk about when do the temps break, maybe is how he said it. When do the temps break over? They're not going to be over. And then I don't know what he said. If it was 85, it was Jacques at Once Upon a Time. I don't know what video it was in. It's called Jacques in the Garden. Once Upon a Time was just me saying something. That's not the name of the channel. Howie is packing food and listening. Interesting. Packing food. Radio Jonesy says, yeah, I didn't find the gaps until my little dog Charlie chased one back to the neighbors. And then the gap has been exposed because Charlie fit through said gap. Yeah. And then getting the dog back is a little exhausting, right? Tammy Harder says, baby bunnies keep getting in the fenced backyard. The dogs aren't having it. Okay, so the poll says biggest fall garden challenge. We're going to end the poll and I'll put it up on the screen for those of you in the replay. Going over to here, Wickeshire, we have a cool new video about fall coming out soon. Video is asking for feedback. 4 soil types made up. What should we grow? 1 veggie type to test a fall seed. So it's not out yet. Carol says they get a breakout in Cali. We don't much anymore. Carol, look at Brazil, maybe. I mean, even getting seeds from Brazil seed suppliers, if that's legal, because don't they have a climate that you can relate to? You really got to find a garden buddy to help figure that out. So this was the poll. Okay, biggest fall gardening challenges. Timing crops right. 62% of the chat said the timing is the hardest part. It takes practice, right? And the weather does its own thing. Early frost taking out your fall garden was 25%, pests 8%, shorter daylight, things growing slower was 4%. What did David say that you said no to? Okay, Carol says I have fruit trees from Brazil. No, I'm good. I was teasing about we have no frost at all. Okay, okay, okay. That will be April 2026. Oh, okay, got you. Now, I did not talk about cover crops, and that's an entire show in itself. We do have a wonderful community of people like Gardner Scott, who just did a show about green manure cover cropping. So I would encourage you to check that out. I can add the link to the description. It's not in there at this point because it just came to me that that's something you can do in the fall. And we are going to another show at some point talking about what should we be doing in the fall to the garden, maybe closing it down kind of a thing. How to put the beds to rest. We can do a show talking about that as well. So we talked about the Australia, Tasmania kind of plan for your spring garden. I just gave a list and some resources because I don't know what you guys should do. I don't live there, right? And we are going to remind everyone in the replay, you here in the chat, you in the replay, become a channel member to unlock a special video talking about why I have a channel. And there's much more content coming your way in there. Photos. I put up a special post just for members in regards to the fall garden show that we're doing. So make sure you look at that. You can hit the join button, or it might say subscribe plus if that sounds like your garden party. So we have a link in the description talking about joining our garden community. That's the same link. In that you can see the tiers on what does what. And I'm actually able to gift memberships. YouTube has a special button where every month I'm allowed to gift memberships. So I'm running the button now to see if it works. So I get 10 total and I'm able to send 5 at a time, and I haven't used it this month yet. So I am going to announce who just received some gifted memberships before we talk about the next thing. We have MKP, Grant McIntosh, Minnesota Gardening, Destiny Fitzgerald, and Sam Potsick are all channel members. Welcome. Let's see. What do I say? There's a thing. Woohoo! We got new members sprouting up. Welcome to the garden, and that means it's story time. Before I say the story, members, drop your custom emojis in the chat right now. We want to celebrate you. Huge garden size thank you to current and new members. Your support helps the garden community grow every day in every way. Absolutely. What I was going to say is those that have received a gift, you will get an email. It talks about the gift. It lasts for, I think, 30 days. It is up to you to renew the membership if you would like to at that point. Let's go into who is our current members, and then I will read a story since we now have new members. So it is not story time. It's time to share my screen. Wrong button. Okay, our current members, I'll put the new people on the map here after the show. We have Robin Gardens, South Florida Sunshine Tropicals, Scott, Driven Fortitude, the LP Dimension, Big Will Dog 82 in the Soil, Mother Earth Garden Club, Richard, Miss Sharon, Sooner JH Travels, John, Radio Jonesy, Diva in the Dirt, Gear Grindin' 19, Da Moose 1829, Teats Treats, Future of Food with Chef Kelly, Grace Martin, Serena Norell, The Groves Bargain Emporium, Steph, GT Jr. Grows in Alaska, Book Trout 1, Leslie Spites, Emmanuel, The Ultimate Gardener, Leonard Mountain Homestead, Chris and Amy, Puppy Breath, Sifting Some Soil and More, White Rock Homestead, and Homestead Aquarius. And the ones we talked about that just got their gift. So, now I can do story time. I hear my cat sneezing. The night the pumpkins hummed. It began just after sunset, when the first stars appeared. Shawnee was walking past the pumpkin patch when she heard it, soft, low, and steady. The pumpkins were humming? She crouched beside the largest one, pressing her ear to its smooth orange skin. The sound vibrated through her cheek, almost like a lullaby. One by one, the pumpkins joined in, their hums weaving together into a strange, beautiful melody that seemed to drift beneath the soil. Drawn to the sound, Shawnee followed it to the far edge of the patch where the earth was warm under her hands. She dug gently and found a round stone etched with swirling vines that glowed faintly in the dark. When she lifted it, the humming stopped, replaced by a single whisper, "Plant me where the moon touches the earth." By morning, the stone had sprouted a single silver leaf trembling in the dawn breeze. Shawnee smiled. She didn't know what it would grow into, but she had a feeling the garden did. Okay, let's see here. Radio Jonesy says, you should, Shawnee, come on down south. I don't really travel very well, so trying to find elsewhere what I missed. I read that. Carol, that's a cool feature. Homestead Aquarius is listening. Can't chat. Got it. Yes, congratulations, everyone. Use your membership while you have it. Janet, good evening. Brooke Trout 1 says, neato. Jonesy put out some emojis because he is a member. Robin put out some emojis because she is a member. MKP says, thank you. You're welcome. Bowtie says, Shawnee, JB over at Naturally JB can recite all his members from memory. What? I'm not doing that. Oh, okay. I don't know who that is. Naturally JB? Radio Jonesy says, this strangely sounds like a Hallmark story. Brooke says, I like story time. Wickershire says 7A, I'm banking on lettuce and brassicas. Yeah, feel free to use any of the things in the description. Frost date. There's a days to maturity vegetable midsummer planting with cold hardiness crop list. There is a planting vegetable calendar where you can go to the zone or state and it tells you roughly which month you could be planting something. It's just a rough estimate though. It's not to live hard and fast by. Carol says, I like story time too. Super creative. Yes, Swiss chard and spinach. We do have is it tomorrow? Yeah, Wednesday's tomorrow. The Ultimate Gardener has a show, Growing Generations podcast is going to start at 3 Eastern, 2 Central Time. I will be in the chat because I'll be back from the doctor by then. I like Farmer's Almanac, yeah. Jay says maybe offer bedtime readings for channel donations. Yeah, I could filter it into garden bedtime lullabies, right? Okay, let's talk about goals, everybody. Our next goal here on the channel is 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours to get full monetization unlocked. The things we can do. So, I would love to see this by November 1st. Our current totals: sub count is 780, watch hours 3,147. I am in a race with Radio Jonesy at Radio J Talk to see who gets to 4,000 first, and he is winning. So y'all need to help me out. And whatever way you can for liking and sharing, it's great. If you want to send it directly to someone, That'd be great. Talk about me. That'd be great. Coming soon, I am in the process of filming the August Garden Tour, and I need to figure out a members only live stream. Now, there's different ways to set it up from what I hear. I don't really know anything on how to do this, but there's a way where the live stream you can watch when we're live, those of you that aren't members, but you can't chat. Only members can. And there might be a button where only members can see it and chat. I'm not sure. We're going to mess around with it one of these nights. I might have tomorrow off too. I had today off. That's why we did this show. They didn't have any mail for me to key because I'm just an on-call worker. I might have said too much there. I'm sorry. I usually don't talk about my job. So that might be coming up. I also have a bunch of content ideas that are floating around that I need to organize and get into the format that I showed you guys the other day when we did the how I prep for a show, live stream, whatever I said. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Okay, that one. Fresh, fried fresh veggies and ham? Is that what you're having? Did I have supper? I ate earlier. Oh, it's all week? All week? Oh, okay. That is, yeah. Hide in the bathroom, maybe? I don't know. I'm just kidding. Hide in your car. 3160 is Radio Jonesy's current watch hours. We're in the race. We're supporting each other, of course. And Bowtie is also looking for watch hours. Good evening, Driven Fortitude. We're at the end of our conversation for How Do I Plant a Fall Garden? We've covered a lot today. Bacon seeds are great. They eat a lot of things. Here we go. Grant says, thank you for the gifted membership. You're very welcome. Make sure you use it and check it out. There's all kinds of fun things in the members only tab of stuff. Like a fun printable poster chart thing for tonight's show is in there. I was correct. Okay, thank you, Barry. Yes, the replay has all kinds of stuff, and there's links in the description to back me up with the articles and tools and videos so you can go watch other people talk about their gardens because maybe they can talk about their zone more related to you than me. Carol said it's fall bedtime and soon bedtime for the gardeners. Yeah, putting the beds to sleep. Tammy Harder says, gotta run, take care, everyone. Bochai says to Carol, right now, my form of support is in watch hours. Fantastic. Well, we did the poll. We talked about our members. We covered all the tabs I have open. So, thanks for spending part of your day with me talking about the fall garden. Be sure to check the description for a video answering what is vermiculture and a link to become a channel member. Remember to grow every day in every way.